Oglesby with What Counts. I will be conducting your new client training today. If you would give me just a few seconds to go over a few housekeeping items up front. I've got everybody on mute right now, so if you have a question, if you'll write that question down, and I will open up the end of the session to answer any questions that you may have. That would be great. Number two, I am on a voice over IP phone. I depend on the internet to stay up, and so it has happened. It's not a common occurrence, but sometimes we will lose internet connectivity and the phone will go down, and we have to just try and start over to the best of our ability. So just keep that in mind. Number three, this is new client training. So what we are going over today is the basics to set up your new account and the basic minimum requirements that are needed to deploy that email from your account today. If you are a new user, many of these things have already been set up in your account. You will not have to do them. However, it's not a bad idea for you to understand where these things reside and how this account was set up if you are indeed just a new user. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. The screen that we're on right now, this is the login screen. If you have not already received an email to set up your credentials to be able to log in from this screen, I'm going to show you here in just a minute how that is done. And either somebody here at What Counts will do that for you, or somebody within your organization if you are indeed a new user. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and hit login. And this takes us to the dashboard screen. You get a little tidbit of history on this day in history, and if you can read really fast, you might be able to get a little bit of trivia for the day. It's kind of fun. But this is the dashboard screen, and this is my training account, so I don't really deploy a lot of emails out of here anymore. We used to in the past to set the account up and give it some reporting values and things like that. But we haven't sent anything in the last 30 days. That's why all of our numbers are 0. But the dashboard screen is just a real quick way for you to peruse what's been going on in your account for the last 30 days and the emails that have been deployed, etc. I would just say take a moment to, scroll down through it, take a look at it. It's pretty self-explanatory. I will point out that on this page and every page within the platform, you have a link for support. This will open up a form that will allow you to submit your issue, or we have live chat, which you can use as well. And this goes to the support line. So if you have anything Publicaster related, any issue or something that you think they can help you with, let them be your first line of defense. If you have an account manager with What Counts, they can surely indeed help you probably, but you'll probably get a quicker turnaround with support because they have access to some of the stuff that's a little bit behind the scenes that not all the account managers have access to. So let support be your first line of defense for anything Publicaster related. You will notice right here gears. Gears throughout the platform are where you will find all of your drop-down menus to be able to further advance within that tab or that section. So just take a look at what's behind all the gears. The one I'd like to show you here is the Learning Center. The Learning Center is a repository of Publicaster-related frequently asked questions, tutorials, guides, definitions, how-tos, etc. I use it all the time. Become familiar with it. Let it be a resource tool for you because it's an excellent tool for you to use. Okay? All right. As stated at the beginning, this is new client training. So I am going to walk you through the steps required to set up a new account. Okay? We're going to first go under the Administration tab. You will see there are a lot of drop-down options from this particular tab. We are going to focus on the first 3. You need 3 things to be able to deploy an email out of the Publicaster platform, okay? And the first thing you need is a user, all right? Remember when I said at the very beginning when I logged in, if you don't have a login yet, you'll be receiving credentials. This is how we set someone up as a new user, okay? We actually click User Account Management. This takes us to this page, and we're simply going to add a user because you've got to have a user to deploy an email, right? Makes sense. Somebody's got to hit that go button, right? So you simply have new user. You enter their first name, their last name, and the email address. The email address is important because this is where the email will be sent that's going to ask them to set up their credentials. They will need to click a link, create a password, and 3 security questions. All right? So real important that this email address is the one that you want to use to set that new user up because they're going to have to go find that email and click on the link. And just a little bit of FYI, if you set the new user up and they don't receive that email, have them check their junk or spam folder. If they still don't receive it, it would be a perfect opportunity for you as an administrator, if you're setting up a new user or if you need to call what counts, they can resend that email so that new user can indeed set up their credentials. So first name, last name, email address, and the active box must be checked, okay? It has to be checked or that new user will not be active. I'm going to scroll on down here, and we have a plethora of sub-accounts within our training account for all of our sales rep guys and our account managers and things like that. You're probably not going to have the number of sub-accounts that you're going to see here, but if you do indeed want to have a sub-account or a child account to this particular parent account, you can select that user that you're setting up to be available to access any of those accounts, okay? But the most important thing, I think, when adding any new user is the permission levels. You are able to grant permission levels to each new user that you add to your account. If you have somebody that's coming in as an intern for the summer and you want them to help with analytics and reporting, you might want to only give them access to the reporting. So you as the administrator or whoever is the administrator of your account can set the permission levels for each individual user that is added. Okay? Once you decide all of the permission levels that are needed, you simply click Save, and you will get a message up here that states an email has been sent to this email address to ask that user to click that link and set up their credentials. Okay? So that's the first thing. The very first thing you have to have in Publicaster is a user to deploy the email. The second thing that is required in Publicaster is a from and or reply to address. You just need one, only one. I'm going to talk a little bit about having two if you can. Think of it this way. When you receive an email, that email might come from ABC Company with an email address of monthlynewsletter@abc.com. That would be the from email, okay? Now think about it this way. Whenever somebody sets an out of office or if somebody clicks the reply link in an email they've received, that reply has to go somewhere. So if you can set up a different reply to address that is monitored, don't set up a reply to address and use it if you're not going to monitor it. It's very important that you monitor the reply emails. If you don't want to set up a separate reply to address and you want to use the same one that you're using from your from, that's fine, but just make sure that you monitor it. Think of it as a way, you don't ever want to shut down the gates of your subscribers being able to communicate with you, and people still do actually hit the reply button when they receive an email newsletter. And you don't want to shut down that line of communication with that subscriber because they've chosen to try and communicate with you that way. If you don't have the bandwidth or the manpower to monitor reply to email addresses, I would suggest that you put somewhere in your pre-header text, please click here to contact us, because I know you have seen these, don't reply to this email, it is an unmanned email, and they stick it at the bottom of the email. Absolutely, one of my biggest pet peeves, I've been doing this a long time, about 9 years, and I have to tell you that still remains high at the top of my list as a pet peeve, that they don't reply to this email and they bury it. If you are not going to be able to monitor a reply to email address, give them a link in the pre-header that they can get to somewhere and someone that they can actually communicate with, okay? That's me on my soapbox and my 2 cents worth for you. But anyway, you just need one. Again, you only need one. This will come into play again when we go to deploy an email, and I think it'll make a little bit more sense. But just keep in mind, you can always come back and add these and update and things like that. Now, what's going to happen the minute that you add a new from and or reply to address, an email is going to be sent to the email address that you set up right here, and whoever is manning that email address is going to have to click a link to authorize that that is indeed a valid email address and that it can be used for this purpose. Keep in mind, you cannot use commercial email addresses such as Gmail, Yahoo, any of those as your from and or reply. So what's going to happen here, until you click that link in that new email that you have set up to use, it will not be authorized. So make sure that you click that link when that email is sent, and it will become an authorized from and or reply to address, and you're good to go. So that is number 2. We have a user. We have at least one from and or reply to address. And the next requirement within the platform before you can deploy an email is a physical mailing address. This is to help you be CAN-SPAM compliant, okay? You can have multiple physical mailing addresses, and yes, P.O. boxes are acceptable as a mailing address because each individual email that you deploy from Publicaster has to have this address. It is a CAN-SPAM requirement. It must be there. We just try and make it a little bit easier for you to remember that you have to use it and it's there. So we ask that you set it up before you deploy any emails. And let me just show you how you do it. It's super simple. This is one that we set up. Put your information in the HTML code box. Put your information in the text box. Update your address, and you're good to go. You can always come back and edit this. You can always come back and add more, etc. If you forget to do this step and try to deploy an email out of Publicaster, you will be stopped because it will not allow you to. So that's why we talk about it at the very beginning. It's a requirement, and we set it in place to help you be CAN-SPAM compliant. So now we have a user, we have at least one from and or reply to address, and we have at least one physical mailing address. This physical mailing address will come into play 2 more times in the training. I will point it out. It's a little bit later in the training. But again, I think it will make a lot more sense when we get to those 2 sections within the training why we have set it up. Please take a minute to go over these other drop-downs, these other menus. They're all important, especially account preferences and public pages customizations. And if you have questions about it, don't forget the Learning Center. You can find that under the gear. And then just, ask support if you have any questions about anything. But we have set up the bare basics needed in your account under administration. So that being said, let's go ahead and move over to List Manager. You'll see that there are several drop-down menus under List Manager, and we are only going to focus on the first one of the list. The segmentations are great, but we're not going to go into those today, but just know that segmentations are segments of existing lists or subsets of a list. Profile update triggers and profile update actions are a much more advanced feature that allows you as an administrator to set up behavioral actions that you want the platform to perform based on triggers within the platform that you have said a user will have done. So a little bit more advanced, but just suffice to say, if you have a user that has done this 3 times, then you want this particular email to deploy the profile update triggers and actions or something that can help you do that. But again, we're only going to focus on lists today because the list tab is where all of your data is stored. Okay, all of the information that you have about a subscriber is stored within the List Manager within a list. And as you see over here, again, we have gears. See the gears here, the gears here, and the gears here. So anytime you need to find something in the drop-down, hover over a gear. But notice how we have a library over here. We have folders. We have individual lists within those folders. I would suggest if you do indeed have an account manager and this is a new account, talk to your account manager or somebody at What Counts about the best way to set up your lists are. I am a big, big, big proponent of one list and multiple segmentations. I would rather have one master list and 100 segments than 100 individual lists. And you know, if you were to come to me and ask me about that, I could explain that in detail. But again, that's my preference. But there are going to be situations where one master list is just not feasible, and I totally understand that. And as you can see, we have multiple lists within our account for training purposes. Also note that when I came to List Manager and clicked on List, that this particular list right here, the newsletter, is highlighted. I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a second, but this is the list that I use most often each time I come into this particular tab. And instead of having to go and click on it, I've made it my default list. So each time I come to this tab, it's going to default to that list because, again, I use it the most often. And I will show you how to do that. And I'm going to do that right now. So we're going to add a list, okay? We need to get your subscribers into the platform. Now, what I'm going to show you is how to manually add a list. There are multiple ways to get your data into the platform. Again, I'm going to show you the manual process, but you can use opt-in forms, you can use APIs, and get that information in there just as well. But let me just show you the manual functionality of creating a list. Several different types of lists. If you are curious as to the definition of each one, don't hesitate to go to the Learning Center and just do a quick search on mailing list, and it's going to give you definitions of each one. But we are indeed going to use a mailing list because it is the most commonly used type of list. And today is March 11th, so let me just use my very creative naming conventions and call it March 11th. Description is optional, and then you do have to put it in some type of folder. And then there are three little sub-tabs under here that you can choose. Remember how I told you if you want to make that the default list, like every time you come into the list, this is where you check that box. So if I went to my newsletter list and looked at that, this box indeed would be checked. If you choose to make this a test list, the word test is inserted in the subject line each time you use that list, and the test is hid by default in the reporting section. You can always get to those tests if you need to, but by default it's hidden in the reporting section so you don't have to look at all of the tests along with your other reporting. I, on the other hand, don't even run tests in my live reporting. I actually create test reportings, and I'll show you how to do that as well. But it's just something that does for you. It puts test in the subject line and hides it by default in the reporting. And the public, for subscriber preferences, this is an advanced feature. If you are interested in having a subscriber preferences page, do speak to your account manager about that, because that is something that you'd want to sit down and plan out and map out before trying to implement it within the platform. And we would be more than happy to help you do that. But it's a great thing to have if you can indeed have a subscriber preferences page. The only field we give you by default is email. We don't surmise to know that you have first name, last name, phone number, address, city, state. We don't know. I mean, so we're not going to just, you know, put a bunch of fields in there that are not going to ever hold and collect data. So if you need to add a field, you simply come down to the field name and you insert that field name and add a field. Quite simply, just give it a name and add the field. Notice that there are no spaces in my field naming conventions. You can, however, use an underscore, like I did here in the phone number field. It's personal preference, but you cannot use spaces and you cannot use special characters, okay? And you'll notice, too, that the length defaults to 255. It can go up to as high as 3,000 in length if you need a field to be that long, okay? So you simply type the name in, add the field, and then we can save this list, okay? And we have a list. The information was saved successfully. If I wanted to delete this, I can. There's a codicil to that. If you have previously imported data into that list with that field, it will not allow you to delete it. It's a fail-safe method that's in place. It doesn't allow you to delete the field because we don't want you to delete the information. But you can indeed delete a field if you've not put any information into it. You can also edit a field. So there's last name, and just say that you do indeed want to use those underscores. Simply do that, and it will edit that field for you. Okay, so we have created a list, and we have a couple of fields within that list. Now we've got to get information into that list that we've just created, right? So we're going to import. We're going to import into that list. When you click the import/history button, that takes you to the import page. You'll see here we're on the list import for this particular list. And this is the import page. You'll see that we're in this particular list right here. Okay. For our uses, I am going to go back and I'm going to go to my newsletter list because it has some information associated with it and allows us to see some history. And I don't have that in that new list I just created, and I want to be able to show you that. So that's why I've popped over here to my newsletter list. It's still the same import page. It's still exactly the same. And let's walk through what you are going to find on this list. Again, this is for a manual import, ladies and gentlemen, all right? So say you just created a list and it had 50 field names in it, and you went to lunch after you saved it. Well, you kind of need to know the naming conventions of those fields before you can import, because your fields that you just set up in your list, those naming conventions must match your file that you're going to use to import. So if you did indeed use phone_number in the Publicaster platform in your list creation, you must indeed have a header in the file that you're going to manually import that has phone_number. So you have done all this work. Well, you don't remember what you named everything. Well, we're going to try and make it easy for you. If you've gone to lunch and come back and you can't remember what you have named those fields, just click one of these boxes here, and it will bring up your naming conventions of the list that you just created. Okay? So there they are. Now, I bring this up because I want to point out this right here and this right here. And if you look here and think to yourself, well, I know that I'm not losing my mind because I didn't create these fields. No, you did not. These are fields that we create for you on the fly that will become populated at some point in time based on your sending and your frequency and the engagement of your particular subscriber. You will get subscriber scores, and the subscriber score calculates the date when that score may have been calculated, the date. So don't worry if you see these two fields. You didn't create them. We did that for you, okay? So that is an easy way to make sure that your file that you're going to manually import has the field names that match the field names that you created in Publicaster. Okay? Once you've gotten that all set up, just choose the type of import. The file is the one that is most commonly used. If it's bigger than 4 megabytes, you're going to have to use an FTP. And, of course, with the FTP, you're going to have some sort of outside FTP software, and we use FileZilla to be able to FTP the file in. So keep that in mind. A text box, I usually use a text box simply if I want to import a string of email addresses, and I just have one header, one field, and I can use a text box. But again, the most often used import type is a file. Then you must choose which one of the actions that you want to do. Well, if it's your first time in a new account, you're going to append. If you want to append new data and update existing data, you can do that, okay? So just choose which one you need, and then you choose your file type, all right? I probably have an Excel somewhere, and just go and search for, a file somewhere. And let me just find one. And then I'm going to click Import. And the reason I do this is because this Terms of Service box appears each time you do this manual import. And by clicking, I agree, you're agreeing to the Terms of Service. You're agreeing that these are permission-based emails. You are agreeing that you did not go out and purchase a list. People have specifically asked or requested to hear from you and your brand. All right? We see every import that comes in. We have been known to pick up the phone and call a client and say, you've been with us, 12 months, and, you have an opt-in form. We see 100 emails coming in a day, and all of a sudden we just saw 100,000 emails get imported. What's up? you know, we don't mean to be big brother watching, but it's so important that we follow the rules because, you know, it helps protect your brand and it helps protect us, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So by clicking agree, you're agreeing to the terms of service. Once you've done the import, this is the history that's associated with the imports down here. It gives you the time, what was imported, the function that happened, was it successful. This one failed, but I don't know why. This would be a prime example of when I would scroll right down here and go to support. Tell them who I am, what account I'm in, what mailing list I'm in, the date and time of the import it failed, but you don't know why. Can they help you? And they will be more than happy to look that up and help you. This one right here, this import was done, but one of the fields did not match. In other words, the field that was created in Publicaster did not have a matching field on the, you know, the field name did not match. It was on your manual import file, and there was no place to put it in Publicaster. So just make sure you read the import history and understand what's going on. All right. So we have now, I'm going to go back to the summary of the list manager. We have now set up our account. We have a user, we have a from and reply to address, and we have a physical mailing address. We created a list. We created a few fields within that list, and we've actually imported data into that list, okay? So now let's real quickly just go over this screen here and a summary screen just to get a general understanding of what you can do on these screens. We are in the subscriber detail. That's what we're viewing right now for this particular list. We've got 25 active subscribers, 2 that are impending, and 0 in the re-engaged. Other bounces, soft bounces, hard bounces, okay? And then we have opted out, unsubscribed, and viewed, and via complaint. So those are all interactive fun buttons to look, but these are also those same numbers right here that we just saw. And these are all clickable numbers, and you can get to those numbers as well. Yes, this huge opted out, I made an error in an import one day, and I actually agreed on the terms of service box. I imported it, so I had to go put them in an opt-out status. So that's why it's so high, and my numbers are very skewed because of it. So it's kind of funny. But anyway, this is actually, this is a subscriber detail, and I want to go back to the summary view of this. This will allow you to see, again, my skewed charts. The wrap leaf data, this is data that we give to you. You do not have to purchase it. It's age, gender, and location. Location being equal to city, state, and country, if available. So about 48 hours after a new subscriber hits the list, this information will be appended if available, okay? And then it's updated on a quarterly basis after that. But we give that to you, but there are other premium data elements. If you would like to append any of those data elements, talk to your account manager or somebody at Block Account so they can discuss that with you and append other premium data elements. The top domains is probably one of my favorite reporting features because it allows you to do 2 things. Like for here, I know that Gmail, Yahoo, and Hotmail are my top domains in my list. I probably want to make very sure that my email is rendering, my email creative is rendering, and all of those particular ISPs, those internet service providers are rendering my email because that's the highest percentage of my list. And another place I'll show you top domains is in the reporting section when we get to that. But I do love top domains. They can be used very high level and quickly to get a very good understanding of what's going on in your account. Then you have your list growth chart that just shows how your list has grown over time, and you can export that. Okay? So this is the summary section of the list, and the subscriber detail section. It still has these pretty little buttons that bounce around, and you can click on them. But another thing that the subscriber detail section has, it allows you to create queries on the fields in your list. So if you need to find anybody in this list whose first name was equal to Melanie, you could do so and simply apply a filter. And what this is doing is searching all of the subscribers on that list is showing you that we have 6 individuals that have the first name of Melanie, and if you want to, you can really very quickly and easily edit a subscriber's profile right here by simply making a change, saving, closing, refresh, and this individual has now had a change in their profile status. All right. When we get to the reporting section at the end, I'll show you another way to get to this information in the same manner, because keep in mind, this is really great if you've got one master list. But if you've got several lists and you have a request from this individual, just say, for instance, I'm playing devil's advocate here, this individual received an email and they replied to you using the reply button in their Yahoo, and you're monitoring that somehow, or somebody is, and they say, please take me off all of your lists, and you have 4 or 5, you may not know. So I'm going to show you another way later on how to determine how to find that subscriber if there are indeed multiple lists that they could belong to. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the creation of a list. If you want to export information, export button right here exports the filtered criteria. The export button over here exports the entire list. This export button over here exports from all of your lists. Okay? All right. So we have now created a list of users. The next thing that we need is we need an email creative to send to those lists of users. If you hover over Creative Manager, there are several drop-down tabs here. We are going to stay in the first one. The rest of them are worth perusing and taking a look at and getting a better understanding and knowledge of. But for our purposes, we're going to stay in the email tab because that allows us to show you how to create new emails, etc. So much like the list library, you have an email library where you can create folders and you can drag and drop just like any folder tree within any sort of application that you're used to using. And again, the gears, this is where you find all the information when you're needing to get to a drop-down menu within that tab. When you come into the Creative Manager and you come into the email section of the Creative Manager, the 6 most recent emails that have been created will be available right here for you. So again, you went to lunch, you came back, and instead of having to go and look for it in the folder, it'll pop up right here. Okay? For our purposes, I want to show you how to create an email from scratch, though. So I'm going to do a new email creative. And this will allow you to simply set this up with a name. Description is optional, and then, of course, you have to have a subject line. It's going to default to your email type and your coding. You do have to put it in a folder. Now, once we've done this, there are several different ways to get your raw HTML code into the platform. As you know, HTML code is what renders email newsletters, right? So the HTML code has got to come from somewhere. Now, if you are working in an outside editor such as Dreamweaver or something, that's great. I highly applaud that. If you want, you can use one of our preloaded templates. Now, all of these in here are not from Publicaster, but many of these these are preloaded templates that are in the Publicaster platform that you can feel free to use. These are housed in the Template Manager section right here. Or you can actually put just raw HTML code in a template folder in the email section. The Template Manager section was instituted to be able to allow you to sort of lock down certain sections of a template. So if you wanted to make sure that that the footer never changed or the header never changed, that you only want to give somebody the ability to change the content, that's what the Template Manager section is most highly used for. And that's a little bit advanced training, so if that's something that you need, talk to your account manager about getting some training on that. But you can pull those templates from there. If you choose one of those templates, you can bring in a template from a URL, such as right here. There's the link. We have a creative server that we put create templates on, and we can use those links to import the information into Publicaster by simply using that link. You can find your own file if you have your own file out there, or you can simply go and just copy and paste raw HTML code like from a Dreamweaver or something. Just go into the HTML section, pop it right in there, and boom, we have an email. Okay? So again, several different ways to get your HTML code into the platform, and you can choose whichever one works for you the best, and then you are ready to go. Now, you'll notice here, this is actually a template out of the template manager in Publicaster, and I just copied and pasted the raw code from it into here. And it's a great training template to walk you through a lot of these icons up to here on the WYSIWYG editor. The what you see is what you get editor. We don't have time to go through all of those, but the two things that we have to have in each email newsletter that's deployed out of Publicaster, we're going to talk about. Two things. So if you're taking notes, two things. But if you want to go in there and create one of these, feel free to create one of these, and it's called the postcard template. I'm fairly certain that's what it's called. It's the postcard template that is in the template manager section if you want to just go and open it up and look at it and clone it and play around with it and sort of get an idea of what all these things mean. Two things. You must have a physical mailing address snippet code. You will hear snippet codes a lot when you come to the Publicaster platform family. Snippet codes are basically content placeholders. Okay, so you've got to have a physical mailing address snippet code, and these are the snippet code drop-downs right here. Pop that right in there, okay? You are holding a place for the mailing address that we set up at the very beginning of our training to populate when you deploy that email. All right? Again, this is a placeholder because, remember, you can have more than one physical mailing address. This is holding the place for the one that you're going to choose, and I'll show you where that happens in just a second. The second thing that's required is an opt-out mechanism. There are one of three that you can choose from, okay, but you have to have one. Global opt-out. If you've got one master list, this is perfectly acceptable and all you need. If you have multiple lists and you want to just sort of nudge that individual to only unsubscribe from that list, use the list unsubscribe. Keep in mind that a global opt-out is available at the bottom of that page because it has to be CAN-SPAM compliant. Somebody's got to be able to have one-click access to get off of everything. However, if you use list unsubscribe, it's a little bit more likely that they won't unsubscribe from everything but just that particular list. Or the granddaddy of them all is the subscriber preferences, okay? Subscriber preferences is the most elegant way to allow somebody to unsubscribe and to really gain a little bit more in-depth knowledge about your subscriber. But one of those three is acceptable, but you have to have both of those. Both of those are requirements in each individual email that is set up and deployed out of Publicaster. A physical mailing address, snippet code, or content placeholder, and one of the three opt-out mechanisms. Okay? This gear right here allows you to do many different things. You can check for spam. You can do a quick content preview. Yes, this is what I just did. And when you do a content preview, it's going to preview with the snippet codes. It's not going to show you what it looks like populated. You can create a mobile version. You can create a text version. Quick test. I will show you this, but if I hear that somebody's using this for testing purposes, I'm going to cry. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but I just cannot stress enough how you do not want to use a quick test to test your emails because you want to test in a live scenario, always, always, always. So remember at the very beginning when there were lists and you could create a test list, I urge you to create a test list to send to because you want to send in a live scenario just like you'd be deploying that email. Okay? So you can send a test email, and all of these things, I would just go and try them out, play around with them. Lots of cool little things that you can do in here. But what happens is, you choose, a list that you're going to test from, and it'll allow you to type in 5 email addresses, and you can send that test. But remember, none of the snippet codes work, the redirects on URLs, and none of that. So please test in a live scenario. This is just a really quick way. If you're the only one looking at it and you kind of just want to get a good feel and idea, are things looking right, use this. But do not use this as your testing method. I cannot stress that enough. Please do not use this as your testing method. So that is a list. That is a creative. We now need to send this, right? We now need to deploy this email. So under Campaign Manager, that's where you do that. We are going to stay in these first 2 sections, but all of these are available to you. I'm going to show you how to send an email in live time, and I'm going to schedule an email for you. Once we schedule that email, I'm going to go into that scheduled email and show you how to edit that if you need to. Auto response, we're not going to go into that, but just keep in mind an auto response is a great, easy way to set up a welcome email, which please have a welcome email. When somebody new's added to your list, welcome them with a welcome email, and that can be set up in an auto response fashion. Set it up one time. You don't have to touch it again. RSS to email, we just did a blog feature. It was called a Feature Friday, last Friday, on how to use the RSS to email function in Publicaster. Go back to our blog and take a look at how to do that, but it basically allows you to put your feed burner in there and send it as an email, and it's very, very cool. But for our purposes, let's go ahead and go into Send Schedule. This is the most intuitive page within the platform. I think they're all pretty intuitive if you've worked in an email platform before, but this one is the easiest. We're either going to send the email or we're going to schedule it for the future. The metered send allows you to meter the email over a given period of time. So if you've got 1 million email addresses you need to send to, you don't want to send those all at once. You want to meter them. You want to throttle them back so the ISPs don't receive them all at once and think you're spamming them. A/B split test is multivariant testing that allows you to test, multiple creatives and subject lines. And social only allows you to post a newsletter to your social sites without deploying that email. Somebody asked me one time, well, what good would that be? Well, if you or have some budgetary constraints, but you actually want to really get something out, and you just don't have enough volume left on your contract to send to 1 million more emails, post it on your social sites. And you can create it in Publicaster and post it on your social site. Okay? So you need to choose a data source. That's the first thing you need to do. So remember our newsletter list that we had when we were looking at the list manager? There it is. Now, the click count shows me there are 24 active subscribers on this list. If that number does not look right to you, make sure you've chosen the right data source, whether it be your mailing list or a segmentation. Okay? Now, if this is a test list and you set it up as a test list at the very beginning, this radio button would default to yes. If you need to create this one as a test list on the fly, you can do so. It'll put the word test in the subject line and hide it in the reporting by default. If you need to add another data source, you can do so right here. So if you've got multiple lists, and for this purpose you need to send the same email to 3 different lists, you just go and you find that other data source and you choose it, and there you go. A suppression list, a seed list, Google Analytics tracking. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have this radio button defaulted to yes, you have got to test to a live list. Test to your live list exactly how you're going to send the email, okay? Because I don't know how many times people have come back to me and said, my links aren't working. And my first question is, do you have Google Analytics tracking enabled? Yes. Did you test with Google Analytics tracking enabled on? No. You've got to test with it on, okay? Test in the scenario that you're going to send your email. All right? Physical mailing address. Remember when we set that up? And remember when we put a content placeholder in our email creative? This is where you choose which one will populate, right there. Okay? Campaigns. All right, this is where if you're taking notes, you might want to take a little note here, because the way Publicaster's set up, Individual emails are distributions. Distributions are grouped within campaigns. And then campaigns are grouped within folders. But the most important thing to remember is if you're talking to somebody about Publicaster and they talk about an email, an individual email is a distribution. An individual email can be a campaign unto itself. That's fine. But think of it this way. It's just a way to sort and organize. So say, for instance, you have a monthly email that goes out, right? At the end of the year, you might want to be able to measure how did that monthly email do over a 12-month period. And by grouping them all together in the same campaign, it's very easy to go and find them, okay? You might have a one-off holiday email, and you might want to see how that holiday email performed versus your monthly newsletter. So you probably put that in a different campaign. But just think of it as a way to sort and organize your individual email distributions. You can see here that we've got several campaigns. So whenever we have an announcement about Publicaster or an update or a release, we can put it in that campaign. Then we might have, campaigns for our particular blogs, or we might have a welcome campaign. But just again, think of it as a way to sort and organize. And the beauty of the campaigns within Publicaster is that if you put an individual email distribution into the wrong campaign, never fear, you can move it, and the reporting will move with it. It's a beautiful thing. Trust me, I've used it many times. So now we're going to choose a campaign. And here is our from address. Remember, this is what the email is coming from. When you receive that email in your inbox, this is what you see. The reply to address is the other address if you can have it available to send those replies to if somebody's monitoring it. If you can't and you have to use the same from address, it still holds true that somebody needs to monitor those replies, regardless of which address you use, if you use the same one or if you use a different one. Then you find your creative. You can look at that creative just to make sure that you're on the right track. These are all of the social integrations. If you want to post to your Facebook, your LinkedIn, and Twitter accounts, you can do all that. And you can send your email. Now, don't worry, we've not sent the email yet, I promise. You'll get one more opportunity to check and make sure that everything is right before you pull the trigger, okay? Now, if you're doing a send now and you're sending to all of your list at the same time and you hit submit, I can't get it back, okay? I just can't. It's gone. Don't worry. It's an email. You can send correction emails or follow-up emails or apology emails or something like that. But this is what this page is for you to confirm that everything is correct before you hit submit. Because if you hit submit, I can't bring it back. Now, the only time I can show you, and I'll show you here in just a second, if you use a metered send or an A/B split test and you hit submit, I cannot bring back the first wave of emails that go out, but we can pause the subsequent emails, make any corrections, and then restart. But if you submit it and it's the whole shoot and match, don't worry, because it's gone. I can't bring it back, and you can do an apology email if you find a mistake. Okay? So I'm not going to submit, but what I am going to do is I do want to show you how to schedule an email for the future. And if you're like me and you wake up in the middle of the night and you remember, like, did I choose suppression list, or did I choose another data source, and you're not sure, you have an opportunity. You can go back and edit a previously scheduled email by simply clicking on scheduled emails. And you have to remember which campaign you put this scheduled email in. And we were in the Pub Announcements campaign. There's my email. If I need to edit that, I can do so by simply clicking Edit. And I can add a seed list and choose my new seed list. And I can simply come down here and save, and I have made my edits and my changes. So, life is good. Now, I mentioned pausing. You can pause an email if it's a metered, if it's scheduled for the future and it hasn't sent yet. If you have got a metered send going out, you can pause the subsequent sends, not the first part of it, or an A/B split, okay? I'm going to go ahead and cancel this because I don't want it to go out. And we have now sent our email out, ladies and gentlemen. So we set our account up. We created a list and imported into it. We created an email. We've sent that email. Let's now quickly look at some reporting features behind it. Again, lots of different things in here. We're gonna look at the first three, but don't hesitate to go in there and look at everything. Once we're done here. But the campaign distribution reports, does that sound familiar? Campaign distributions, individual distributions are grouped within campaigns. So here is a folder. There's a main folder, and in that folder, these are all of the campaigns in that folder. Pub announcements is a campaign. So individual email distributions are associated with this campaign. We actually have 30 of them. 30 individual email distributions are associated with the Pub announcements campaign. This is the aggregate number over here of all 30 of those particular individual distributions. This is the summary reporting view. My guess is once you get in here and start playing around, you're going to want to go to the All Reports view. The All Reports view allows you to see each of the individual distributions that have been deployed. See how the high tests, they're hidden by default, okay? But again, I usually just have a test campaign. I don't put any test distributions in my live campaigns. I put them in a test campaign. It's up to you. But you can either click on an individual email distribution to look at the reporting, and here's the type of reporting, okay? But let me click back. And I want to show you if you select all pages and everything on those pages and view all checked, you get the same reporting. So I can view individual, I can view 2, I can view 3, I can view all. These are the types of reports that you have available to you. The real-time activity, you've got click-through performance. It shows you where people are clicking in your email. You have your open detail. All of these reports, I just say go in here and look at them. One of the most used is the managed links. If you send an email and the link is wrong, you can change it after the email's been deployed. Simply go find it and update it and put the correct link in there and update the link, and you change the link in the email. This has been a huge help for a lot of people. So this is a list of all of the reports. So take a moment to go in there and look at that. Those are the types of reports. The activity report shows you like the activity that's taken place within the report that you're looking at. So this is all 30 individual email distributions looked at as one report. Again, there's opens, clicks. All of these are clickable numbers. Pretty graph. View stats versus action stats. What are your subscribers opening your email in? What are they viewing that email in? This is the type. The client, are they using a browser or an email client such as Outlook, a mobile browser? What type of browser are they using? And what type of operating system? Now this is what they're opening it in. Action is what are they clicking? Whoops. What are they actually clicking your email in? Same analysis, client type, the browser, and the operating system. So I get the question, do I need to create a mobile version? In this day and age, yes, you need to at least have a mobile version that it doesn't have to be responsive where you've got media queries and it knows what you're in and it will open the email based on the device that you're on. That's a responsive email creative. Those are a little bit more involved in to set up and test and everything. But responsive is not 100% necessary. I think we're headed in that direction. But if you just have an email creative that renders very well in multiple platforms, you should be okay at this point in time. But do start thinking about responsive emails and using media queries. Total sent minus your bounces is your total delivered. Again, these are all clickable numbers. The second reporting is the comparative reports. This is where those campaigns come into play. And I use this a lot whenever I want to try and get some statistics, some high-level statistics on how the account is doing overall. So if I select all campaigns, in other words, I'm selecting every single individual email distribution associated with this account because they're all in some campaign. These are the metrics I can choose from to take a look at, and these are the time frames that I can choose from to insert. And if I use a custom time span, which is what is most commonly used, I can see how these render. So I'm going to filter. And what this is showing me is that there is a campaign called confirmations. Okay? 6 individual distributions in that campaign. This is the aggregate number of all 6. So that's what the numbers look like. If I need to expand that and look at those individual numbers, look at those individual numbers, I can do so by simply clicking on these little arrows and expanding that. Okay? And then, of course, down here at the very bottom, I can see the total. The one last thing I want to show you is the subscriber history report. And this is where you can look for a subscriber if you have multiple lists. Okay? So this allows me to see that this particular subscriber does indeed belong to multiple mailing lists. And if I need to change the profile of all of those lists or just one, I can simply click on that particular list name. It takes me right back to that profile like we had at the very beginning. Click on that, save, close. If I search again, that individual status is now changed. Again, this is the mailing list summary. It shows you all of the mailing lists that individual is on. This is the mailing related report. It shows you the subject line of the emails that was sent, and this is all of the information that went on within that particular subscriber's history. Okay? A favorite report of mine is the top domains report. Please take a look at it. I know we're right at the 3 o'clock time frame, and I do want to give an opportunity to have you ask questions. So I've taken everybody off mute, and if there are any questions at this point in time, please feel free to ask those right now. Okay, no questions. All right. Again, if you do have questions after you hang up and you think of them, click on the Learning Center. The Learning Center can be found, on the little white gear in the top right-hand corner. Support is on every page within the platform. And if it's an account manager question about best practices and things like that, reach out to your account manager. But if it's Publicaster related, try the Learning Center or the support. But once again, right before we hang up, let me ask: are there any questions? Okay, if there aren't any questions, I just want to thank you for joining the training today. I hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to working with you on your email marketing account. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.